Here we go. Okay, so this morning we are in ancient Greece. In fact, we're going to start our story just south of ancient Athens, so it goes nicely with our ancient history lesson if you were able to see that on Wednesday. Good morning, Noah. Now, our story starts, as all good stories do, with a baby being born, and this baby will be a hero. His name, Theseus. Ooh, one of the most heroical heroes in history. And Theseus, like many heroes, he's not entirely, purely 100% human. Oh no. In fact, there are many demigods. Last week when we looked at Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh was part man, part god. Theseus is similar to that, but different in a way, because Theseus is one of those rarest of creatures who seems to have two fathers, two dads. Bizarre, not sure how it works, but there you go with the story. His dads are King Aegeus of Athens, so a wise, noble, brave, strong king, Aegeus. His other dad is Poseidon, god of the sea and horses and earthquakes. Earthquakes? What's an earthquake? An earthquake, yeah. Oh, that's good, Willow, that you're looking at ancient Greece. This fits in nicely with that. Demigods, Demigods, yes, as in half god, yeah. So Theseus is a demigod. One of his dads, the king of Athens, one of his dads, Poseidon, king of the sea, and his mother is Aethra. Now, she is a princess in a kingdom to the south, a city to the south of Athens. A small place, really, not important in the grand scheme of things. But this place has its own king and its own queen and its own princess. And one day, King Aegeus, he travels and he visits this place. And he falls in love with the princess Aethra, and the two of them make a baby. Now, King Aegeus, he's not really supposed to be making babies with Aethra, so he goes back off to Athens and he leaves her behind in her own country. Okay, doesn't seem massively fair, but that's how it goes. Now, she gets pregnant and she has this baby who she calls Theseus. Before King Aegeus goes back to Athens, though, to be all kingy, he gets a ginormous boulder or pillar, and underneath it, he leaves a special sword and a pair of his own sandals. Yeah, that's right, Theseus has 3 parents. It's weird. I don't know. Greeks, go with it. So he leaves these sandals and a sword underneath a rock, and he tells Aethra, when the boy is old enough, if he can lift up that rock, that super heavy rock that a normal human would not be able to lift, and he can take the sandals and the sword, and he can bring them to me in Athens, then I will make him the next king of Athens. Okay. So Theseus grows up, he has quite a nice childhood, and as he reaches his teenage years, his mother tells him about the challenge. And of course, because his father is both Aegeus, the massive king of Athens, and a god, he finds it quite easy to lift up the pillar. Here we are, him lifting up the rock. And underneath, there's the sword and the sandals. I imagine in real life, the sword and sandals would be more squashed. Yeah. No, yeah, Laura, you're in the same place as me there. But no, as we can see in this picture, the sandals and the sword are completely unharmed. And he picks them up and he starts to he decides to go on a journey to Athens, where he will, hang on, there we go, where he will present them to his dad, and when he does that, he can become the next king of Athens. Now, Theseus has a choice, as most heroes do. He can jump on a boat, sail up to Athens, be there in a few days, and, job done. Or he can take the long way round. He can go on foot through the deep, dark forest, the wild lands, and it will take him longer, and it'll be far more dangerous, but it might be more heroic. Yeah. So Theseus decides that he's not going to take the easy route. No, no, no. Because Theseus has heard of a hero, a great hero called Heracles. Hercules in Roman. Now, Heracles, he had been through the land some years before, defeating monsters and beasties of all description, such as the Hydra and a giant crab and a really big pig. And uh, Theseus decides that he would like to be like Heracles, because, of course, Heracles couldn't have killed all the monsters and all the baddies. So Theseus says that if I'm going to be a true hero, I need to go the long way round. Yes, Rock, I too would go on the boat. It would make this, to be fair, it would make the story a lot shorter, so it's a good job he didn't really. Um, and so Theseus decides, because he wants to be a hero, like his idol Heracles, then he is going to go the long way and defeat all the beasties that he can. So he takes the sword, he puts on the sandals, and he goes off on his own into this great big wild forest. It's mountainous, it's hilly, trees all over the place, and it's really, really quite a scary place to be. Now, at first, he's wandering along, and he sees this guy here, Periphetes. It's a good name. It sounds like a Periphetes. Yeah, Periphetes. Now, Periphetes is also known as the Clubber. Oh, I'm glad you like my black background, Mary. Yeah, it's nice. I'm in the labyrinth today. For those of you who are wondering, we're waiting this morning for the Minotaur to come along, because he will. It'll take a while, but he'll come along. Don't worry. Um, yes. So Periphetes is known as the Clubber. Ooh. He's a vicious bandit, as we can see here, who he likes to wait until people come through his part of the forest, and he likes to jump out from behind a tree and club them to death with his club and steal all their money. Ooh, horrible Periphetes. Now, Theseus, he's strolling along, and he sees a suspicious sight in the distance. There is a man with a club who looks like he's trying to hide behind a rock or a tree or something. It looks like he's getting ready to jump out at Theseus. But Theseus will not be caught unawares. No, no, no. He is wise and he is heroic. So, Theseus, he walks very carefully along the path until he gets to the place where Periphetes is obviously trying to jump out and get him. You know, if you've ever played hide and seek with a toddler, this is what Periphetes is all about, yeah? He thinks he's hidden, but he's not very good at it. And out jumps Periphetes, and instead of just clubbing Theseus on the head, him and Theseus wrestle. There's a fight. There's a back and a forth. Periphetes pushes Theseus one way. Theseus pushes Periphetes back. They tussle for a minute until Theseus grabs hold of the club of Periphetes and smashes it down on Periphetes' own head. Now, Periphetes is hit so hard by this demigod that he doesn't just get hit on the head, but he gets hammered right down into the ground like a whack-a-mole. Dear. And Periphetes is quite dead. Now, Theseus is quite proud of himself. Oh yeah, he's beaten the vicious clubber Periphetes, and as a souvenir, he takes the club of Periphetes. And usually when we see pictures of Theseus, he wields the club instead of the sword. He keeps the sword will be important later. But usually he's shown in ancient pictures with a club, partly because his hero, Heracles, his weapon was a club too. So I think Theseus quite liked the club. He's like, yeah, I'm a clubby kind of guy. I'll keep this magical sword or this special royal sword on my back, and I'll just use this crazy club instead. There you go. Now, this starts a theme, as you will see arising. Theseus is very good at defeating bad guys by turning the tables. That's kind of what Theseus does. Yeah. So he carries on through the forest, stomping along, wandering about. You know how he is, trying to find his way to Athens. And then he has a bizarre sight. Oh yes. He hears up above him this noise. Splat. Ooh, what a strange noise, he says. I'll say that again just in case you didn't hear it the first time. Splat. Now, he wonders what this noise is. It's a very strange noise. Ooh. And he keeps on going. A few minutes later, he hears a very similar noise again. Splat. Oh dear. Now this time, he looks up in time to see a human being flying through the sky, up in the air, and crashing, splat, into the side of a cliff. Ooh, ow, that's gotta hurt, says Theseus. Now, where are these flying human beings coming from? They're coming from our second villain. Oh yes, Sinis. Sinis is also known as the Flinger, because he, a bit like Periphetes, he waits in the forest for people to come along, and what he does is he grabs them, he bends back a young supple tree, he ties people to it, and then he flings them through the air into the side of a cliff. Splat. He can then go and pick up their money and whatever they've dropped, you know. He's a thief, is Sinis, much like Periphetes. Now, Theseus does not like the idea of this. He thinks to himself, what would Heracles do? What would Heracles do? Would he let this flinger live? Or would he deal with the flinger like a true hero should? And so Theseus, he stomps through the forest until he finds the source of the flying humans. Splat. And he finds Sinis there, stood next to the trees. Now, I don't think any of these guys, Laura asked a question there, are Periphetes and Sinis brothers? I don't think they're related. No, I think these are unrelated villains, as far as I'm aware anyway. So the people are flying through the air because they are getting flung by the tree. They're tied to the end of the tree is pulled back like a catapult, and then whoop, it shoots them up into the air. That's the idea. Now, Theseus, he comes up to Sinis and he says, "Oi, you flinging muppet, stop it. That's not on. This is a good part of the world. I am Theseus, and I will stop you." And you guessed it, a fight ensues. They grab each other, they throw each other about, and there's a tussle. One of them goes this way, the other one goes that way. Long and the short of it, though, is that Sinis the Flinger is always going to be defeated by Theseus, the demigod. And Theseus, he gets his own back on Sinis in a most gruesome way, because Theseus, as we've already seen with Periphetes, likes to use people's weapons against them. So, he grabs hold of Sinis, he pulls back a tree and ties Sinis's legs to it. Then he pulls back another tree, a different tree, and he ties his arms against it, and then he lets both trees go. Oof, indeed. Sinis is ripped in two. And yeah, there you are. They're both flung through the air, both halves of Sinis. Another job done, says Theseus. Another villain defeated. I will clean up this forest. That's what he's thinking. Now, to answer your question, Armani, yeah, the lessons are on all next week as normal. So Monday history, Tuesday geography, Wednesday ancient history, and we'll have another mythological story on Friday. Okay. Yeah, ouch indeed. Yeah, those people in the chat who are saying ouch, it's very much an ouchy one. Theseus, though, he's feeling pretty good. He's cleaning up the streets of he's cleaning up the forest of Athens. And so he's now going on through the forest until he finds a beautiful looking cottage. It's a wonderful cottage. It's got roses growing outside. It's got, nice little picket fence, maybe we can imagine, a little thatch roof, a little chimney, little puffs of smoke coming out the top. And out the front of the house is an old lady, just sat there, taking in the sun. She's got long white hair. She's got long white hair, and she sat there just looking like she's nice and happy. She says, "Oh, hello, young man. Oh, you look very thirsty. You look like a nice young man. Would you like to come into my house and have a glass of water?" Oh. He's a witch. She might be a witch. We don't know. Now, Theseus, he thinks, well, this is a very nice old woman. Makes a change from people trying to club me to death or fling me through the sky. Yes, I think I will go in and have a glass of water. She says, "Oh, go on inside. Help yourself. I'm an old woman. Oh, I can't stand up right now. Oh." I don't know why she's slightly Irish, but there she is. Now, no sooner, though, has Theseus opened the door of the hut than this comes out. A ginormous Cremonian sow. Monster pig. Now, the pig is huge. It is much bigger than your average pig. It is a huge man-eating pig. And the old woman, she keeps it in her house so that it can eat any passers-by, and then she can steal their money. Now, the pig rushes out of the house and charges straight at Theseus. It knocks him flying. Oof. He gets back up, though, and he starts to try and wrestle with the pig. The pig is way too big, though. It's a very big pig. It keeps on charging him. Now, Theseus, he rips off the door of the house, and he uses this as a shield to defend himself from its great piggy hooves and its great piggy face. And Theseus manages to get himself up on the back of the pig. He wraps his great strong arms around the pig's neck, and he holds on tight until the pig collapses and faints. Oh. Now, there's different versions of the story here. We're going to go with the nice version. Theseus tells the old woman off. He says, "That was very rude. Don't keep dangerous animals in your house. And if you are going to keep dangerous animals in your house, don't tell people to go in unless you've got that dangerous animal on a lead." That's the version we're going with. Now, the old woman, she says, oh no, my lovely pig. Oh, I'm terribly sad, but I have learned the errors of my ways. I will no longer try and get people killed by ginormous animals that live in my house." And there we go. Another villain defeated. Poor piggy indeed. So, that's 3 down. The Cremonian sow has been defeated. And of course, Theseus isn't going to stop there. He's going to keep on going. He's still got to get to Athens. But it's not going to be easy. Oh, no. Not going to be easy at all, because there's always some villain around, isn't there? As we have already noticed. I often wonder with this story, why there are so many villains waiting around in a forest. I don't know how many other people are traveling through, but Theseus is certainly cleaning up the place. Now, the next guy he comes up to is an old man. He's sat there on the top of a cliff. Down below him is the beautiful blue Aegean Sea. The waves crash against the rocks, and he's just an old man. He just sits there. Suspicious, says Laura. Suspicious old man. Well, Theseus by now has probably learnt to be very suspicious of everyone in this forest. Everyone seems to be up to no good. So, this old man, his modus operandi is that he waits on a rock near the cliff, and as travellers come by, he talks to them in his old man voice. "Hey, sonny, come over here, will you? I'm an old man. I need you to help me wash my dirty old stinky man feet. Oh, my feet haven't been washed in years. Please help me wash them." And of course, kind travellers, they do. They come to him, they wash his feet, and then, quick as lightning, the old man, he grabs them, he throws them over to the cliff, and out comes his friend, the giant turtle of doom, and the turtle of doom eats the people. Oh dear. It is a bit gross, yes. Good for the turtle, though. I mean, maybe he's just being, friendly to turtles. I don't know. But he's definitely a villain. Ooh, a villain indeed. Oof, take 2, yes. Now, Theseus, he doesn't trust this old man. He's already had to fight a clubber, a flinger, and a giant pig. He's not going to be taken in by an old man going, "Wash my feet, oh, please." But Theseus is clever as well as heroic. He's going to get rid of this old man. Yes, he is. He's going to give him a taste of his own medicine. That's the idea. So Theseus says, "Oh, of course I'll help you, old man. Oh, you do look very old, and those old man feet of yours do look pretty dirty. Oh, I think it would be very rude of me not to wash your feet, strange old man." And so Theseus calmly walks up to the old man. He bends down, he gets some water, he goes as if he's going to wash his feet, but instead of washing those feet, he grabs the old man by the feet. He swings him round his head once, he swings him round his head twice, and third time, and whoop! Down goes old Sirion into the mouth of his own turtle of doom. That's the end of that one. 4 down, Theseus is on a roll. Oh yeah. So, we can see the pattern here. People are trying to do mean things. Theseus gets them back in their own little way. Now, um, so Theseus now, he's getting there. He's getting close to Athens, He's been through a lot of forest, but there's still going to be a few challenges in his way. Now, let me just remind myself of my word here, because Theseus now enters into a more civilized part of the forest. He enters the kingdom of Eleusis. Ooh, Eleusis. Now, Eleusis is a nice little kingdom. It's not as powerful as Athens. It's not as rich as Athens. Yeah, not quite 10 more, Riley. It's okay. It's a nice place. Yeah. Unfortunately for the people of Eleusis, their king, who is a pretty cool guy, and he's very strong, he's very tough. A little bit weird though, weird king. He's absolutely obsessed with wrestling. Yeah, wrestling is just all he cares about. He wants to wrestle this, he wants to wrestle that, and he likes it so much partly because he's the best wrestler in the world, pretty much. Yeah. Now, what the king of Eleusis does, here he is over here. This is a very old representation of him. Cercion, the king of Eleusis. Now, what he does is anyone who enters his kingdom, he offers them a challenge. He says, "Fight me, wrestle me. If you win the wrestling match, you can be king of Eleusis instead of me. I will quit. But if I beat you, I get to kill you." Now, of course, I'm imagining that most people who enter Eleusis just don't take up the challenge. They're like, "No, I'm not going to wrestle you, king of wrestling. Instead, I'll just chill out, thanks." But we're talking about Theseus here. Theseus isn't going to pass up a challenge like that. Oh, no. Can you quit being king? This king can. Yeah, he can quit being king. He'll hand it over. So Theseus, of course, he's not going to have a challenge like that dropped at his feet and not rise to it. Oh, no. Theseus is going to wrestle. So we've got to imagine now that he's taken into the main part of the main palace of Eleusis. The people gather round to watch their king beat yet another rubbish wrestler. In fact, slightly less ancient, later writers like Herodotus, who was the world's first historian, he says that in the ruins of Eleusis, you can still go there today, or you could in his time, and see the pillars. And each pillar of the palace of Eleusis had the severed head of someone who had fought Cercion and lost. Ooh. So we've got to imagine this Theseus in this grisly palace with the heads of those who have already tried to defeat the king up on the walls around him, on the pillars. The people of Eleusis, they gather around and they cheer and they stomp as the king Cercion comes out. Now Cercion is a beast. Oh yeah, he is big, he is strong, he is powerful. Now, wrestling is a big thing in ancient Greece, and as you can see here, wrestling was always, to make it fair, done with the participants completely naked. They would cover themselves in olive oil, so they would be shiny and slippery, but they wouldn't wear clothes because that would make it unfair. If you had clothes on, someone could grab your clothes and tug you about. So no clothes, just lots and lots of slippery oil. So we've got to imagine two great big guys, the King Cercion and Theseus, slippery as you like, trying to grab each other, trying to hold on to each other and grab them in their arms. But of course, they're all oily and slippery, and so they keep slipping out and all this kind of stuff. That's a good point as well, Laura. Yeah, if you had clothes on, then you could hide a weapon. Yes, that's right. And of course, that would be very unfair in a wrestling match. Now, in a wrestling match, a traditional Athenian wrestling match, the winner was the first one to get their opponent down onto the floor. Yeah, so it's the first one to get their opponent down. They had other sports, like boxing was the first one to push someone out of the ring. Pancration, which was the more hardcore version of fighting, was, I believe, to knock you out. So you had to lose consciousness to win. Wrestling, you're just trying to get them onto their back with their shoulders flat, much like wrestling today, to be honest. 3 times in a row, or 3 times overall, and the first person to get to 3 wins. So, Theseus, Cercyon, they start this wrestling match, and it is true that up to this point, Cercyon is the best wrestler in the world. He is so strong that even Theseus cannot match him strength for strength. Yeah, I mean, Cercyon probably is not quite human himself. And it reminds me, of course, of the fight between Gilgamesh and Enkidu. And these 2 equally matched opponents, pretty much, at least physically, equally matched opponents. But Theseus has one thing going for him. He has tactics. Oh yes, because Theseus is incredibly clever. He's not just a strong, muscly hero, a bit like Heracles. Essentially with Heracles, he found a problem, he strangled it, he moved on to the next problem, he strangled that. Theseus, a little bit more nuanced. He likes to think through these problems. Oh, the town, the kingdom where they are fighting is Eleusis. That's where they are fighting, Eleusis. Now, they wrestle for ages. And at first, it looks like Cercyon is going to win this one. He gets him down on the ground once. He gets him down on the ground twice. And Theseus, he just hasn't got the strength and, to be honest, the experience with wrestling that Cercyon does. But then Theseus goes crazy. He starts to think his way out of the problem. He starts to figure out different ways to hold on, different ways to spin, different ways to bend his own body, different tactics, different things to do with his arms. And in no time at all, he gets Cercyon down 1, 2, 3 times, and Cercyon has been defeated. How do you spell? Let me write Eleusis here. Go away, little toolbar. Here we are. So, let me check it. Oh no. Eleusis, like that. There we go. That's Eleusis there. There we go. So, they are in Eleusis, and Cercyon is defeated. Oh dear. Cercyon is quite... No, he loves his wrestling, and he's a bit annoyed, of course, that he's been beaten, but he's very fair about it. He says, okay, you, Theseus, are now king of Eleusis. Hooray! Theseus, therefore, is now king, which is pretty cool. Just yesterday, he was fighting an old man who was trying to make him wash his feet. Now he's king of Eleusis? Not bad. That's a good question, Sarah and Mary. What happens if one person dies before the other person has got him down 3 times? I think if you die in a wrestling match, you've automatically lost. I think that's probably how they called that one. But this isn't really the kind of sport that people die in, usually. It's not that violent. There's no kicking, there's no punching. It's all about grabbing and throwing. So it's generally a fairly safe contact sport. I mean, no contact sports like that are safe, I guess. But yeah, relatively safe, I think. Well, so he is now the king of Eleusis. He's not yet the king of Athens, but he's hoping to be. That's where he's going. He's off to Athens to be king now. But he is now king of Eleusis. Now, he spends some time in Eleusis. His journey through the forest definitely slows down here. In fact, he spends enough time to get a woman pregnant and who has a baby, who he leaves in the city. But after a while, he decides that he's not going to stay in Eleusis. Yeah, his real goal is to go and be king of Athens. So he leaves the city of Eleusis with And instead of deciding to appoint a different king, he says, well, we'll have democracy. We'll have the people of Eleusis decide who leads them, year to year. They can vote. And according to the legend, that's the first democracy in the world. The second, of course, will be Athens itself. So Theseus, he leaves Eleusis a happy place, probably. Yeah. Now, a question here: how long would it take to get to Athens from the south of Greece? We're probably talking, depending on how many monsters and beasties you have to fight. Well, I suppose we're talking about a month. But at this point, Theseus is now, spending a lot less time. Spending a lot more time, in Eleusis. He's there for a while before he leaves again and heads back to Athens, or at least, there's different versions of that, but that's how I'm going to say it this time. Maybe not as much as 2 years, a good few months, definitely. I'm not sure if he's there to see the birth of his son or not. It might be that his son is born after he moves on. I'm not sure. It gets a bit hazy. So he's not out of the woods yet. He leaves the nice palace of Eleusis, or the kingdom of Eleusis, and he heads off once again to try to get to Athens. And this is where he will find possibly his most bizarre challenge yet. Oh yes. What about his wife? He doesn't have a wife at this point. He has a baby, but he hasn't got married to the baby's mum. So yeah. So he hasn't got a wife. Those asking about his wife. Yeah. So off he goes, back through the forest to try and finally get to Athens. When he comes across, I don't know, something that looks a bit like a hotel, an ancient Greek hotel. There's a house there with a sign outside saying, stay here for the night. He knocks on the door. Out comes a man. Now, this man is called Procrustes. And Procrustes, he comes out of the house and he says, "Oh, hello, hello. Oh, aren't you lucky? Oh, you look very tired. Why don't you come and stay in my house for the night? You've probably heard of me. I'm Procrustes, the owner of the magical bed." "Whoa, magical bed, yeah." Theseus says, "I haven't heard of you." Fishy, suspicious. But please tell me about this magical bed. Why is it so magical? Procrustes says, "Well, this bed is amazing. Once you get into the bed, no matter how big or small you are, the bed fits you perfectly. Whoa, that means you get the perfect night's sleep every time." Theseus thinks, well, this is suspicious. Suspicious indeed. I don't think I like this. This sounds very fishy. Now, Theseus doesn't quite know how this works, but the secret of Procrustes' bed is quite simple. Procrustes takes you into his house. He gets you to lie on the bed. If you are too long, he chops off your legs or your head to make you fit. Not very magical. If you are too small, he stretches you until you stretch and fill the bed perfectly. So, not a safe place to be. No, no, no. Exactly why he does this, I don't know. He's obviously quite crazy. But of course, Theseus will not fall for this. He goes on into Procrustes' house. Procrustes says, "Oh, go on, lie down on the bed, the magical bed, it's amazing." Theseus lies down, and Procrustes proceeds to pick up an axe. I know there's a sword in this picture, but the story says an axe. He picks up an axe because Theseus's legs are hanging over the edge, and he goes to chop off Theseus's legs. Now Theseus jumps up. "No, no, no, Procrustes. You try the bed instead." And Theseus, he puts the Procrustes on the bed, picks up his own axe, and you guessed it, chops off the head of Procrustes. Oh. Good question, Maya. I've always wondered, what if you are the right size? I assume if you are just the right size naturally, then A, you assume it is a magic bed, and B, Procrustes just lets you have a good night's sleep. I guess. I don't know. He's a special kind of crazy as Procrustes, so who knows? So that's his 6th villain defeated. Just to recap, we've got the Clubber, the Flinger, the Big Pig. We've got the Feed You to a Turtle Man, the King Who Loves Wrestling, and now the Man with the Magic Bed. They're all defeated. Oh yeah, and Theseus now can go into Athens uh, a hero, but maybe not quite yet. Because now he's on the outskirts of Athens. As he's entering, as he's getting closer to the city, he can see it there in the distance on the hill, maybe. He starts to hear reports from the villagers and the country folk around Athens. They say, "Oh no, there's a great big pig around. Oh, it's a very scary pig. Oh no, not a pig. We've already had a pig. It's a cow. Oh, there's an angry cow. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Sorry, Jasper. It's a cow, not a pig. I've got pigs on the brain." Um, yeah, one man says, "Oh yeah, there's a horrible cow out there. This cow, he'd come round during the night, and he does eat all my crops. I was supposed to be growing at least 10 crops this year, and that cow, he's gone and eaten at least 5 of them. He's horrible, that cow. He's horrible. I don't like him." And of course, the people of the city of Athens generally do not like this nasty cow. Now, I'm saying cow. Really, it's a bull. Yeah, it's a male cow. Oh, here's a question. How much time did he take to kill the 6 villains? I don't know. We can assume that, because he spent so long in Eleusis, we can suppose maybe it's been about a year, maybe, since he set out to getting to Athens. I mean, to be honest, he's in no hurry. He doesn't get to be king of Athens until the current king dies. He's only going to be promised to be the king of Athens. So it's not like he's racing through to get there or anything. Oh, does Theseus has a victory dance? Probably. Yeah, I'll think one up. Yeah, not quite Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is a little bit bigger in the head than Theseus, maybe. Um, so, all these reports of this terrible bull, terrorizing the area. Now, this bull is none other than the bull of Marathon, who was taken from its home and dumped in Athens or around Athens by Hercules. One of Heracles' jobs, or one of his tasks, was to take this bull and to give it to the king. Which he did. The king got scared of the bull and just let it go. And so this bull has been roaming the countryside for a while. Oh, those of you asking, this is not the Minotaur. This is a literal bull. Just here we are. We'll show a picture. Here's the bull of Marathon. Now, Theseus, he goes out into the countryside and he spends a few weeks tracking this bull down. He's looking left, he's looking right, he's looking under this tree, he's looking behind that rock, and eventually out comes the bull of Marathon. Now, Theseus doesn't just kill it. Oh, no, no. That would be not heroic enough. He really wants to enter Athens in style. So we can see him here entering the city of Athens. This is Theseus in this old picture. He's got the bull by the horns and he drags it through the streets of Athens, right up to the palace, to where his dad is the king. Now, King Aegeus, he comes out of his palace. He commends Theseus for capturing the bull of Marathon and for ridding the countryside of such a vicious creature. And he says to Theseus, "Come into my palace. We'll have a feast. We'll have a celebration. Well done." Now, at this point, King Aegeus does not know that Theseus is his very own son. No, no, no. King Aegeus thinks that this is just some, wandering hero. This is a time of heroes. There are heroes everywhere, I guess. And this particular hero has done something very specific. He's captured the bull of Marathon. In some legends, he even rides the bull through the streets, holding on to its horns. So he's made this grand entrance. I assume, Rowan, I don't know what happens to the bull. Let's say they put it in a field and they just keep an eye on it. They don't let it go and around eating people's crops anymore and knocking stuff over. We'll go with that. But so Theseus, he is, he's welcomed into the palace. He's given a nice room in the palace because, of course, he's a visiting hero. He deserves to have a nice bath and a bit of sleep and all that kind of stuff. And they say, okay, prepare yourself. We will have a feast in a couple of days' time. Spend a couple of days relaxing, just enjoying palace life. And then we'll have our feast. Oh, yeah. So Theseus relaxes. But in the palace, there is a problem. A secret menace lurks. Oh, yes. Because King Aegeus has got a wife, Queen Medea. Ooh, Queen Medea. Now, Medea is a witch. Oh yeah, a proper 100% bona fide witch. Magic spells and everything. Shocking times. Now, Medea, she does not like Theseus. She can just tell by sniffing him with her magic senses, if you like. She can tell that this guy is going to bring her trouble because she has a son with King Aegis, who is going to be the next king. Medea consents. It's unclear exactly how much she knows here, but she consents that Theseus is a threat to her son taking that throne and being king of Athens. Maybe she knows already that he is the true king, that she is the true son of the king. Maybe she just, senses something with her black magical senses, on the old evil radar. I'm not sure. But she will not put up with Theseus being in the kingdom. She knows she has to get rid of him. Yes, good kid. Yeah. Now, so Medea, she makes up a poison. We can see her here, probably, creating some of the parts of this poison here. Look, we've got a toad, we've got some kind of poisonous berries, maybe a poisonous mushroom or leaf right here. She's heating things up and she's gathering together this disgusting poisonous mixture, which she is going to secretly feed to Theseus at this feast. And of course, Theseus will then die. Oh, that's a good question, Riley. Does the king know she's a witch? I think the king definitely knows she's a powerful woman. Exactly how witchy she is, I'm not sure. He certainly doesn't know she's evil. Yeah, as far as I can tell, he genuinely loves her. So he obviously doesn't think that she's like an evil witch. But he might well have a suspicion of her powers, perhaps. Yeah, that's a good question. So the night of the feast arrives, all of the nobles of Athens, they gather together, the king's there, Medea's there, and Theseus gets to sit on the top table of the feasting hall of the palace, alongside the king and Medea. Now, everything's going well. They eat some food. They like the starters and stuff, I guess, little nibbly bits here, nibbly bits there, whatever. And then they decide it's time for the main course. Out brings the king a picture, or a great big piece of meat, perhaps the bull of Marathon, but let's imagine not, because I quite like the bull of Marathon. So a great big slab of meat is brought out and put on the table in front of the king and Theseus and Medea. Alongside that, they bring out the very best wine and they start to fill up everyone's wine glasses. Now, Medea is very careful to make sure that Theseus gets the special wine glass with the special wine in it. And Theseus has that on the table in front of him. Now, they're just about to tuck into this when the king orders the meat be cut. And it's at this moment that Theseus thinks, this is the time that I show everyone that I am the son of the king. So he pulls out. Oh, Josh, I don't have a picture of Theseus yet. You'll see one in a minute. We've seen a few going through, haven't we? But really, there's no definitive picture of him. So he pulls out his sword, the special sword of kings from King Aegis, the one he got from under that rock, and he uses that to chop up the meat for the guests. Now, as he pulls out this sword, of course, King Aegis instantly recognizes it. He goes, wow, this is the real king of Athens. This is my son. And there's such an uproar and a hubbub that Theseus, he knocks over, by accident, his wine cup. And the wine spills out over the table, and the table starts to kind of fizz and melt where the poison touches it. All of a sudden, Theseus is declared true son of the king, and Medea, well, she has to make a quick getaway because it's very obvious that she was trying to kill Theseus. Now, over the next few days, son and father, Aegeus and Theseus, they get to know each other. They have a great time, they become best of friends. But then about a week later, Aegeus, he comes to Theseus very sad, very upset, because it's that time that comes every 7 years when, because of old rivalries between kingdoms, the king of Athens has to send 7 boys and 7 girls down to the island of Crete to be eaten by a vicious monster. Now, let's just take a little sidestep to Crete. We'll come back to Ariadne in a second. Now, in Crete, there lives a monster, the son of King Minos and Queen Pasiphae. Sort of, not quite. And yes, those of you in the chat, you've guessed it right. It's the Minotaur. Now, the way the Minotaur comes about is a bit of a strange story in itself. King Minos is a proud and noble king with a great kingdom, and he has great herds of cattle. And it is customary each year for King Minos to give his best bull to the gods, specifically the god Poseidon, Theseus' dad. Now, one year, this particular year, a few years before Theseus is traveling around, Minos decides his favorite bull, this big one here, is too nice. He's not going to give that to Poseidon. No, 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 no. He'll give him the second best bull instead. Now, Poseidon, he gets angry at this. Very angry indeed. Oh, yes, Tommy, this will be the creature in the maze. We will see the Minotaur in a minute. But this is before the Minotaur is born. As a curse, as a punishment to King Minos, Poseidon goes to Minos' wife, Queen Pasiphae, and she magically makes her fall in love with the bull. So we can see Pasiphae and the bull here. They fall in love with each other. Now, the long and the short of it is, they make a baby. And that baby is not quite human, like Pasiphae, and not exactly bull, like the bull, but instead he is half man, half bull, the Minotaur. Dum dum dum. Now, the Minotaur also has a sister, Ariadne. Here we are. Ariadne is the daughter of Minos and Pasiphae. And she, as you can tell from this picture, has no bull in her at all. She is pure human. Okay. Now, you'd have thought if you gave birth to a half-man, half-bull wild creature beast, you would probably, I don't know, get rid of it. But they don't. King Minos and Queen Pasiphae, they decide to look after this creature. Yeah, it's not a human. It cannot talk. It cannot. It doesn't seem to act like humans. It's got the head of a bull, the body of a man. But they want to keep it safe, and they want to keep the people safe from it. So they get the best engineer in the land, a guy called Daedalus. You might have heard of him and his son Icarus. Daedalus creates a labyrinth, part of which is behind me here. The labyrinth is a maze underground where the Minotaur is kept. There's one door going in that is kept locked most of the time. No one's allowed in. The Minotaur's not allowed out. He just roams around in that maze the whole time. Now, because Athens owes a debt to Crete, every year, every 7 years, Athens has to send 7 boys, 7 girls, 7 males, 7 females, depending on the version, over to Crete, where the door of the labyrinth is opened, the 14 guys are shoved in, the Minotaur then, chases them around, eats them, whatever. That keeps the Minotaur fit and healthy, and that keeps the king of Athens, paying this debt off. The debt, if you were wondering, is because Athens was responsible for the death of Minos' other son, Ariadne's brother. So, this long-running debt has been going for a few years by the time Theseus arrives. But Theseus, sees that King Aegeus is sad about this, and he decides, I will go and I will kill that Minotaur, and then we will not have to pay the 7 boys and 7 girls each time. No, no, no. Instead, we will be free of this terrible curse of the Minotaur. Someday maybe I will tell the story of Icarus. We haven't got time today, though, unfortunately. So, Theseus, he puts himself forward as one of the 7 boys who is going to go. And he gets on a ship with sailors and crew, with 6 other boys and 7 other girls, and off they go towards Crete. Now, he tells his dad, I will come back having defeated the Minotaur. And the king says, okay, I need to know what's going on here. So as you're sailing back to Greece, if you have killed the Minotaur, I want you to put up a white sail. But if you have not killed the Minotaur, I hope you will come with the black sail that you have left, so I will know that you have failed. And by the time you get there, I will I've had some time to deal with it before I see your dead body, or lack of body, or whatever it is. Yeah. So he promises, the sailors, they promise, yep, white sail if he's alive, black sail if he's dead. But Theseus says, don't worry, look, I killed a giant pig once, yeah? Did I tell you what I did to that old man? I threw him into the mouth of a turtle, yeah? I've got this, Dad, don't worry. And off they go. Now, they get to Crete. The night before the feeding to the Minotaur happens, there's a great big party. The 7 boys and the 7 girls, they are treated very nicely. They're well fed. They get nice wine. They get to dance because, yes, they're going to die in the morning, but there's no need to, die sadly. You may as well die after a good knees up. That's the Cretan way, maybe. And it's at this party that Theseus catches eyes of Ariadne, the princess. She instantly falls in love with him. He instantly sort of falls in love with her. More on that later. And Ariadne starts talking to him. He says, oh no, I can't believe you're going to be fed to the Minotaur tomorrow. I love you so much. I love you so much. Please don't die. And so she gives Theseus 2 gifts. One is a magic ball of wool that will that will just go forever. You can just keep pulling wool out of it. And the second gift is a wonderful magical sword. Now, when the people are fed to the Minotaur, they're usually not allowed to take in weapons and magical balls of string, so she helps him hide them secretly about his person, and the next morning, when the 14 kids are shoved into the lair of the Minotaur, into the labyrinth, Theseus, he has his sword and his ball of wool secretly with him. The door of the labyrinth closes behind them. Clang. And Theseus says to the others, you guys stay here. I'm going to go into that labyrinth. I'm going to find that Minotaur. I'm going to kill that Minotaur, and I'm going to save us all. So, because the labyrinth is a maze, what he does is he ties the the ball of wool to the door of the labyrinth, and as he walks deeper into the labyrinth, he keeps the wool playing out behind him. In some versions, they're not children. In most versions, they are children. So yes, for Laura asking, I don't suppose they had to be children, but yeah, that's the myth. So he walks into the maze, the ball of wool playing out behind him, and the idea is that no matter how deep he gets, he'll be able to follow the wool back to the door, and so he won't get lost in there. Now, as he's wandering through, out of the shadows leaps the vicious, mighty Minotaur. And there is a fight. The Minotaur starts a hoofing, a horning. He's fighting, he's grabbing, he's biting. But Theseus is a superhero. Theseus has a magic sword. Theseus once killed a weird old man with a bed. Oh yeah. So the fight goes on. People, they're chucking each other into pillars. Think Gilgamesh and Enkidu again. And eventually Theseus climbs up on top of the Minotaur and stabs his sword right down through his neck, killing the vicious beast. It's a bit of an anticlimax, really, isn't it? I mean, everyone loves the Minotaur, but to be honest, he doesn't really feature very much in the story. He comes out, he grunts a lot, and then he dies, unfortunately. It's still very cool, though. The Minotaur is dead. Theseus, he follows his ball of string back to the entrance of the labyrinth, where he bangs on the door. The people let him out, not quite sure why. And him and his 13 Athenian compatriots, they run out of the palace back to their ships. Now, on the way, Ariadne, she screams out, "Don't go without me! I love you! I love you more than I've ever loved anything before!" And so Theseus says, "Come on then, onto the ships." And they run away before King Minos and his men can capture them, I guess. Now, off they go, back to Athens. But on the way, like all good stories, they have to rest. So they pull up for the evening on a beautiful island. And there they eat their fill, they have a good night's sleep. But it is at this point that Theseus decides, I really don't like that Ariadne. She's a bit annoying. I think she expects me to marry her and I don't really want to. No, I'm not putting up with that. So, in the middle of the night, Theseus gets up and silently wakes up all of the crew, all of the 13 other Athenian children. He wakes them all up, he gets them together, and secretly and quietly and silently they walk onto the boats and they sail away, leaving Ariadne all alone on the island. Seems a bit unfair. Now, Ariadne, she wakes up in the morning, she looks around her and she's like, no! My boyfriend's left me. That's terrible. And not only that, he's left me on an island all alone. And there's probably monsters. And I have no food. And this is really, really horrible. Poor Ariadne. Yeah. And so she starts to cry and weep. And she is heard by her patron god, Dionysus, shown here, who comes down from the sky, the god Dionysus, and he says, don't worry, Ariadne. I will help you get home, and I will punish that Theseus. Oh, yes, I will. Yes, that's not very heroic, is it? You're right, of Theseus. Not a heroic act at all. So Dionysus, he's the god of wine and partying, but also memory and madness. And so he sends a wind to chase Theseus's ships, and it is the wind of forgetfulness. Ooh. And there they are, sailing towards home. Theseus and his crew, they think to themselves, there was something we had to do. Something that Aegis told us. Can't remember what, though. It's probably not important. Let's not worry about it. This magic wind is fuddling their minds. And they completely forget, of course, to change the sails. Now, King Aegis, he's there on the cliffs outside of Athens, looking out to sea. He's been coming out and looking out every morning because he can't wait to see his son return. His son that he's just fallen in love with, basically, just found, and, his true son, the next king of Athens. And then he sees it. He sees Theseus' ship coming over the horizon, black sails flying. And Aegis cannot stand it. The grief strikes his heart like a thunderbolt. And he doesn't even think twice. He dives off that cliff into the sea below to die. Oh, Aegis. Now, Theseus arrives on shore, and of course he is greeted with the news that his dad is dead, which is a double-edged sword, I guess, because that also means that Theseus is now king of Athens. Hooray! He grieves for his father, and he turns Athens, so the legend says, into another democracy. After his time, he leaves the city in the charge of politicians rather than kings, and the people are happy, and Athens prospers for the end of all time. So the two things that Theseus is most revered for is founding democracy and also teaching the people of Athens how to wrestle, because his fight with the king of Eleusis made him come up with the proper tactics of wrestling, and that made it the most popular game in the city for centuries to come. There you go. So that's the story of Theseus. It's got its ups, it's got its downs. I don't know. You decide. Theseus, hero or not, it's up to you. He definitely does some heroic things, but definitely some things that aren't so heroic too. There you go. There's some good bits, there's some bad bits, ups and downs. So thank you very much, guys. It was lovely to see you all again this morning, and I will talk to you again on Monday, hopefully, for a bit of history. Thank you very much. Adios.